Good morning. Um, so we're on day 4 that we just finished yesterday of LAMDA, the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Arts. So yesterday's recording, which was for Wednesday, I said the wrong date. I said September 8th, and that was the first day. So it was actually September 10th, and yesterday was September 11th, and it was day 4. So I woke up at 6 as I've been doing, but funnily enough, I didn't have class till 4. Yesterday, I only had one on-campus class, which was meet head of discipline. And discipline isn't talking about like correction, it's talking about like a discipline of study. So there's an acting discipline, a voice discipline, a movement discipline, a singing discipline, a screen discipline. I don't know what that one is. Yeah, we didn't meet everyone because a few of them were busy doing other projects with other people. And so anyway, I woke up at 6 and I checked my calendar, my agenda, and I was like, yeah, you don't have class till 1600 because it's all in military time for some reason. I was like, oh, well, that's great. So I was able to get some work done, figure out more about like trying to do this thing. And it was great. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I woke up. I started getting tired, but then walking to class woke me up. I walked a lot yesterday. I walked to class. I then snagged some tickets for a last minute West End show. Till the Stars Come Down. Fall down? One sec. Till the stars. I think it's fall. Come. Till the stars come down. Come down. National Theater. Hopefully you can hear me. I have my headphones in, so my speaker should be right up against my face. But yeah, somebody just messaged all of the students and said, "Hey, I got 2 tickets to the show and I can't go. It's for tonight and I'm selling them for £10, which I need to pay them back." Gotta make sure that happens. Um, so yeah. Um, yeah. Anyway, so then I walked all the way from Lambda to the theater, which was a little over an hour. Actually, I managed it in about an hour. And then I walked all the way from the theater back home, which was like 2 hours, a little under as well. But yeah, I had about 30,000 steps yesterday. I kind of want to mention that every time and say how many steps I had because I'm walking a ton. And I think that's a fun little thing to add. Anyway, 6 a.m. Uh, got ready for the day. I realized the class didn't start till 4. I worked on YouTube stuff. I worked on, um, oh, I had to do my harassment and consent training, which was really great. And I loved it. I was like, that's good stuff. And I knew the answers because I'm a good person who's been well educated. So then the class itself, well, I had to write things down because I can't remember things unless I write them down. But we were really up and moving. So we went into the John Wood studio. Is that what it's called? I think it is. Yeah, John Wood studio. And we were starting with our shoes off because that's something that they do. Part of it is hygiene because we get down on the floor and stuff, and so we don't want to take our shoes that we've been walking around outside in and to bring that dirt in there. So we just take off our shoes and our socks, and then we take the socks off so we don't fall, right? Then we're just barefoot chilling. And then we started. So the three that were there is wait a minute. Wait a minute. Yeah. We're I'll go in order from who worked with us. So first is Michaela. I I believe she pronounces her name a little differently, like Michaela, and pronounce the A. It's Micaela. Michaela. her name's Micaela Miranda. So I don't know if she's Hispanic. She was saying Opa and some other things. So I don't know. I don't know her nationality or ethnicity, but I want to get her name right. Anyway, so she's our head of discipline of movement. So we started by just walking around, and we're all classical students, and so we're doing it very solemnly and important, and we're just like walking. Yes, how do I walk normally, and how do I do all this? And and then she's like, "You guys are really somber and serious. So walk with some joy and have some kind of interactions, look at each other and take in each other." And then she said, "Greet each other." And then she said, "Skip around," which was so fun. I love a good skip. And so we're skipping, and that kind of took away the seriousness. She's like, you classical students, you guys can't take things too seriously. You got to learn how to play and have fun." And so we walked with joy, and then we skipped. Um, and and it was great. And then we began to like have a moment with each other, and then we would jump and high five. And so we would be walking and then see who we would kind of connect with, because sometimes you're looking at someone and they're not looking. Sometimes they're looking at you and you're not looking, or it just you're moving too differently. And so you would have this moment where you're walking, and then you connected with someone and you're skipping the whole time. And then you would bend down and high five. That was cool. And then um and then she said, "Now what I want you to do," that was a positive interaction. So now do the negative side. Meet people and say no. And then make it dramatic so that you leave in some angles, or right. And it wasn't about verbalization, because we started vocalization or verbalization. We started that way. We're like, yeah and no. And she's like, "Do it all physically, right? Let your body speak," which is the cool activity that got us involved. And then she said, "All right, now I want you to have the choice. Will you go, once you connect with somebody, will you both do yes, a positive connection, or will you do no, right? And turn away or move or whatever it was that physically showed our rejection." And then we were doing that. And she's like, "But make it big and make it like push it to the extreme." And then also she's like, "And you know, try to trick somebody, like go down, like you're gonna go, and then move and give them that no. And then also take that feeling and bring it to your next one, right? Like if you just got rejected and you went for a yeah and you got a no, how does that make you feel? And don't just like drop it and go to the next thing, but have that moment after as well as that moment before, and then the continuity going into the next thing. So it was all about these relationships um and this physical moments of connection and how they lead into one another. I when we had the choice, I picked mostly just the positive the whole time. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I got rejected a lot, which was not as fun, but whatever. This what the screen I'm looking at myself. It's mirrored, and I like see my hair sometimes, and it's whatever. And then I have to like change my braid. Anyway. So then we worked with George. George is our head of discipline of voice. So George is really wonderful. George had us first begin with like a physical warm, just like taking our hands and rubbing our scalp, and then rubbing our forehead, and then rubbing our eyebrows and our nose and our cheeks, and then our necks, and just like really trying to wake up our body and connect and get the blood flow and stimulus. And that was awesome. And then we did neck rolls with a vocalization. We did started with our chin to chest, then we did right, back, left, and No, left and down. What was it? Front, right, back, left and front, right. And he had like a melody to it that I'm not getting very right. Um, right, left, back in, right, no, right, back, left and front. And then we went the other way. And he said, make sure that you keep your shoulders parallel so that you're getting the most amount of stretch the whole time because here is a better stretch than there because then that's almost normal. And then um, we did a little parallel stretches, and the idea wasn't to follow one side too much, but just have that contrasting. Did I say parallel? I meant diagonal stretches, from different ways and just like get your body moving and feeling it. And then we did hip stretches with the vocalization with this really twangy. That was, I asked him what it was afterwards because I forgot I want to write it down. But it's like, I've got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle. And so let me let me see if I can do this. So you these are my hips and you straighten it out. It's like, I got spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle. And he was like, really get into it. And like, and so we were just working those hip flexors a little bit. And then, here, I'm going to put this down a little bit. And then he was saying, do like full shoulder rolls, but like bend your knees a little bit. And he used technical terms about movement, something like an overset. No, just had a little plie. I don't know. He said feet a little shoulder width apart and a bend in the knee so that it's a whole kind of body movement. I think we did the shoulders before we did the twang because we were kind of going from face to shoulders to, and then we really like brought it down for dent, dent, dent. And then we were with Brittany, who was about acting. She's like, let's build off of this beautiful work we just did with George. And because we were all like down here and we had that twang. And so she's like, okay, what character can you create with that? And so then we began to like pivot with that physicality and we started creating a character with it. And then how does that character walk? How do they greet people? And we were moving around in this character, figuring it out. And I started creating this old cowboy who's been riding for miles and his hamstrings really sore and he's got like that saddle feet. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but then she gave us some lines to do, which were somebody is talking, do you hear them? Listen. And so then we had a negotiation between each other of when when is which person going to speak and what is and how do you say that? How do you give intention and purpose to these lines that is all we're saying, right? We're not adding anything to it. You need to come up, establish that moment before where where that motivates this action. It's like you see someone, it's like, do you hear something, right? As somebody's talking, do you hear them? Listen, and then people can just like take those like different parts of like somebody's talking. It's like, do you hear them? And then you can go back and forth and see who takes which line, and then see how long you can sit in that moment too with just listening. There that she pointed out a group, Brittany did, about a group that was just kind of all listening together for a minute, trying to hear the person talking. And so that was neat. And then we talked about it. We discussed a ton about all these different things and we discussed like what does this do? And I mentioned how it gives you confinement and structure to the things you're doing. Like with the physicality, we had all the freedom in the world. We could have done whatever we wanted, but with lines, now there's clarity and there's purpose that we need to get behind. We talked a bit more, and then Michaela she she asked us some questions, and then we wrote on sticky notes. And so the first question she asked us is, what what will keep us from being brave? Or like along those lines. So what are the obstacles that keep us from being brave? Because she was talking about the difference between like a safe space and a brave space. Because she doesn't want us to strive for being comfortable, because if you're comfortable, you're not pushing yourself. So they don't want to establish a safe place in the workshops and in the classes, but a brave space, somewhere where you won't get hurt, but you're not going to be comfortable either. So it's not just a cozy, like you're with your family or you're with your person or you're with whomever, but it's a brave space where you're supported, but you can take those risks and you can feel uncomfortable. Shout out to Sandridge. Um, then yeah, and so then we picked a few sticky notes, wrote them down. She put that question down on the ground, and we put the sticky notes around them and made a cloud. And then we asked another question, and the other question was, what are our solutions to overcome these obstacles? Or what can we do, or what have we done in the past to overcome it? Right. And so some of my obstacles that I wrote down is um, not knowing enough, like actually not having that knowledge. And so my solution to that was putting in the work. Or my obstacle was, so I wrote down my own obstacles, was like fear of not doing it right. I don't know if that's what I wrote, but that's what a lot of people did. It's like not trusting in yourself, um, shame, or whatever. One of my solutions, I said like trust my. Oh, I said I was afraid that people wouldn't care about my perspective. Um, and so like for my thesis or something, it's got to be 20 minutes of a self-created project that's all me, right? What are the things that I care about and that I feel? And sometimes I think, because I'm dramatic and over the top, I think that other people don't share my perspective and other people aren't like me. So shouldn't I try to connect with people and my similarities instead of emphasizing differences or core things about myself? I don't know. But I just said like to trust my humanity, because I believe that even if the details and the specifics aren't the same, we've all, grown up in a certain way. And our parents taught us beliefs, if that's spiritual or not. They've taught us the way that the world is and the way that they want us to live. And sometimes we rebel against those things or just establish different ones for ourselves, or sometimes we maintain that through our lives. And that's a human example. Um, but so growing up LDS and still being actively a member, I I worry that if I talk about God or Christianity or repentance, those kind of crucially important things in my life, if those will be applicable to other people. But, there's stories of redemption that's like repentance and forgiveness. There's stories of overcoming difficulties of faith and belief that aren't necessarily religious in context, but a secular person or an atheist or agnostic or whomever can still relate to that, right? Like a lot of people say that the Chosen One story, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, that all is a version of the Christ story, right? And so many people love all those stories. So Matrix, that's another one. So yeah, and then we sat around our circles and we identified them and we talked about them a little bit and it was cool. And then we went to the other circle and we sat around it and identified them. And it was just cool what we came to, that we had similar fears, similar desires and hopes, insecurities. And so it's cool that we're in this together. And yeah, I enjoyed it. And then we got into our big circle again, sat down and talked about just some like housekeeping. Like, so as you can see in most of these videos, I'll be wearing black. And that's because that's our uniform, that's our work clothes. It helps to create a blank canvas in which we can build upon. It's also unifies us, and it's interesting because we're theater people and artists and creators, and so we're all about authenticity and individuality. And so for a lot of people, it's hard, the idea of not showing who they are through their style and their clothing and the way that they choose to dress themselves. And they said that a few years back, they rebelled against this idea, and LAMDA was like, for a whole year, we're not going to do any blacks, no costume, no uniform, no work clothes. And they said it was awful, and that it just created anxiety, and it was hard to make that separation between the outside world and the work world, and it creates more unity, and it's just much better this way. So that's why I'm always going to wear black. It's also a blank slate that you can build and add a costume on. So like we don't wear makeup, we don't have on jewelry, partially for safety, partially for just giving that blank slate. It's just human being, and then we can add on character traits as it goes. Yeah, let me see. I don't know if I'm missing something. I feel like I had a piece of paper that I lost that had more rules and regulations on them. But that was the gist of it. And then I got the email in the morning about the ticket to the show, and I was like, "Oh, I'd be interested." And they're like, "Yeah, we'd prefer to sell them uh, together." I was like, "Okay, yeah, makes sense, no problem." And then at the end of the day, I guess nobody came with two people, and so the person selling them was like, "Hey, you got them." Sent me a picture of the. Uh, oh, that was gross. I just had a little eye boogie, eye sleep go on my contact. Might cut that out. Anyway, I love you guys. Uh, and yeah, and then the person who got the other ticket was also in my cohort. Was another D. Was Isaac. It was this really cool guy, and we sat next to each other and we discussed the show a little after, which is fun because I haven't seen a show with somebody for a while, so it was fun to just kind of discuss it. And it was just an interesting story about three sisters and the complications of life while one of them is getting married to a Polish man whom like the family is bigoted towards and kind of racist. I guess it's not really racist, but yeah, and just how all of that works and goes together. It was cool. It was definitely good. It was a little cynical and nihilistic, which is not my favorite. I'm more of a leave room for hope kind of a guy. But this has been long. That was day 4, September 11th. I never know how to address that, but thought about it yesterday. I thought about it yesterday. Anyway, I feel like I need a way to like sign off, and I don't want to be like smash that like button and subscribe, because that's not even the point of what I'm doing. Well, I will talk to you tomorrow.